Hello, my name is Justin Coffey, and today I'm going to be sharing a short tutorial over Desmos.com. Desmos is a graphing calculator, essentially. It's a very powerful graphing calculator application that users can use to graph equations and manipulate the graphs. A great thing about Desmos and why I'm kind of sharing this tutorial today is that Desmos is very easy to use, and it's available online or as an application on mobile devices, both Apple and Android. My objective of this tutorial is that the viewer will be able to graph equations, manipulate graphs, and add images to the program. And this video today is intended for teachers and or students who want to learn more about how to use new technology tools available to assist students in math and science classrooms. I'm going to be covering a couple of the National Educational Technology Standards today. And so one of the things that I'm going to hit on is the ISTE standard for teachers 3D, that teachers will model and facilitate effective use of current and emerging digital tools to locate, analyze, evaluate, and use information resources to support research and learning. Also, over on the student side, I'm going to talk about ISTE standard for students 6B, that students will select and use applications effectively and productively. Oh, let me go back there real quick. I forgot I need to show you what the app does. So let's go over to the Desmos site. And again, this is just desmos.com. Or if you have a tablet or iPad, you can just look for the Desmos app. And so when you're in Desmos, one thing that you can do is create an account, which is pretty cool because then you can save your graphs for later. So I think that's really valuable today. I'm not going to get into creating an account because it's not needed for our purposes today. But just know that you can create an account, and that allows you to save graphs that you've created. Before I launch into the calculator, I do want to show you Desmos has been really popular, and what a lot of people are using Desmos for right now is creating these kind of images, cartoons, pictures using graphs. And so people are programming in all these different curves and lines to create these pictures and images. And Desmos just kind of keeps you updated on different images that people are working on right now. So here's just a look at some of the things people are creating in Desmos, which is pretty cool. We're going to keep it a little more simple than that today, though. I'm going to go ahead and launch the calculator. And when you launch the calculator, a graph will show up. And this is a coordinate plane, and you can zoom in and zoom out depending on what you need for your graph. Over on the left-hand side is where you can type in your equations. So when you click over here, a little keypad will show up down here. You can type with your keyboard on your computer, or you can use this little box down here to type in numbers and letters. So let's go ahead and graph a line and see what Desmos can do for us. So one line that I could do is y equals 3x minus 4. And you can see as I start typing it in, Desmos starts graphing that line for me. So the line for this equation is in red, so that's why it's red. There's a red circle over on the left-hand side, and it graphs that line in red. So I know which one is which. You can also see that there's little dots on the line, and if I click on those dots, it will tell me the exact point. So if you want to know your x-intercept or your y-intercept here, it will tell you your y-intercept exactly. So that's really great, and you can talk about slope with students and talk about y-intercept and all those things that we do. But then when you get into systems of equations, sometimes you want to graph more than one line. So if you just click over here, you can add another line. Let's say maybe y equals negative 2x plus 6. And you can see, again, this time there's a blue circle over here. That means that that line's going to be blue. So you can see that line here. And again, you can click on the dot and see where your y-intercept is at. You can click and see where your x-intercept is at. Those are important points. And then one of the coolest things is you can click and see exactly where these two lines intersect. There it is at 2, 2. So you could add as many lines as you wanted, and Desmos would just add those lines to the graph. So that's a really neat feature. When you get past linear equations and you move on to quadratic equations, perhaps you want to change the equation to y equals x squared plus 7x plus 10. You can see that Desmos will graph a parabola for you, and you can click to see where your roots are on this parabola. My roots are at -5 and -2, and you can click to see where your vertex is at also. So students really like this, that they can find the roots and the vertex very easily using Desmos. They can graph more than one line or curve at a time, and it's very easy to zoom in and zoom out to see what your line or what your parabola do. So those are all really great features and things that I like about Desmos, but it's more powerful than that. Another thing I can do is, if I want to get rid of this equation, and I can go over here and search. There's lines in slope-intercept form, lines in point-slope form. There's parabolas in standard form, vertex form. It gets much more complicated than that too, though. There's all these trig functions that you can graph, conic sections, polar graphing, transformations, all these calculus derivatives. So there are all of these types of lines and graphs that you can create in Desmos. Today I'm going to look at this one, parabolas and standard form. So when I click on parabolas and standard form, I can click on open graph, and it will graph a parabola for me. The cool thing about this is over on the left side you can see the standard form of a parabola, and then it's got a slider bar for your A. So this is a powerful tool, I think, for teachers to show students, if you change your A, what happens to the graph as your A changes. As your A shrinks, it looks like my parabola is getting wider and wider. As my A increases, it looks like my parabola is getting thinner and thinner. Another great thing to talk about, students, is as your A goes negative, your parabola flips upside down and opens downward. So you can show them what happens when you manipulate your A value on your parabola, and then you can show them what happens when you manipulate your B value. As you change your B value, the vertex of your parabola moves to the left and to the right. Same thing with your C value. As you move your C value, your vertex moves vertically. So these are all cool things that I like for my students to see and be able to manipulate equations to see how it affects the actual picture, the actual graph. And then it goes a step further. A project that my students just finished doing is adding an image to Desmos. So if you go over to Desmos, you can click on the plus sign, and you can add different things, notes, tables, folders. But my students added an image to their Desmos. And one of my favorite ones that students did was this drinking fountain. I had them go throughout the school and see where they saw parabolas and take pictures of it. And so one of my students took a picture of this drinking fountain, and you can move the image on your graph. So if I want my image right here, and then again I can manipulate my A value, my B value, my C value to match the parabola in my picture. So as I move my A is definitely going to have to be negative so that my parabola opens up down, and I'm going to have to move my B. I'm getting closer. I'm going to have to move my C value. I'm getting much closer. I'm almost there. And so students just play with these sliders until they can get their parabola to match up with their picture. So that's pretty close right there. My parabola almost matches exactly with my picture of the parabola. And then students can write down that equation that they found. The equation for that parabola which they found, their A is -0.9, their B is 4, and their C is -0.03. And then we can use that information to to play with that parabola. So that's kind of just the basics of Desmos and different things that you can use Desmos for as you're creating in your classrooms. I hope that you found it interesting, and I will see you in the next video.